Welcome back to another episode of Dr. J and JP's Vidcast, a series of video podcasts designed to disrupt your current ways of thinking and breathe new perspectives into your life.
Today I'm pleased to present the very last disruptive thinking tool of April. And this is a tool that I use regularly when I am trying to map out my thoughts or even map out my emotions and feelings. And that disruptive thinking tool is called whiteboarding. With whiteboarding, it can be very useful when you feel a multitude of different thoughts, when you want to just dive deeper into your own feelings regarding a topic you're thinking about. Maybe you just need to brainstorm different points of view, perspectives, or options. But whatever it is, we really love using whiteboarding to just draw, to use visuals, and to really see your thought process in action. Now, what you'll need, you can use a whiteboard, but you can use a chalkboard, you can use flip chart paper, regular paper, construction paper, you can do this on a poster. Anything you can write on, you can use to do whiteboarding. So let's dive into an example. I'm going to share a personal example where recently I have had a lot of different feelings throughout the day, and I just wanted to see where everything was coming from. So for my whiteboarding, I decided that I would put a square in the middle and label it how you've been feeling. From there, I list out some of the main feelings that I have been experiencing over the past few days in their own little box with an arrow drawn from the center box out to each one of those feelings. From there, I can start mapping out what are some of the things that I have been doing or things that have been happening that have helped me feel these emotions. As you can see here, we have a lot of different things written down. For instance, in the bottom left, we can see that the reason why I'm overwhelmed right now is that I am trying to finish my second book, trying to figure out my dating life, volunteering for a local nonprofit, work, and then also balancing my social life. But then I also know, if you look in the top left, that I'm actually very excited. And the excitement is coming from work projects going well. We're making great progress on a volunteering project that is going to be launched in 2017 in the fall. And then my second book is actually on target for release. And so I know that some of these things have caused a lot of excitement throughout the past few weeks. Now what you can do is you can even take it a step further. Whiteboarding is great when you are trying to list out a lot of different things that may be going on, and really the opportunities are endless. For instance, you can just take your whiteboard and you can attach other pieces of paper so that you can map even larger whiteboarding sessions. For instance, here, I get that I'm overwhelmed with volunteering and work, but maybe I need to be more specific. So as you can see here, I put down each of the projects that I'm working on, and if this were a real example, I would put down the actual name of the project. But it can help you, and it helps me, to be able to visually see everything that's going on. Now let's use one more example, because this is an example of being able to map lists, and it can also be great for prioritizing. For instance, if you see all of these different projects on the bottom, you can recognize that, oh, maybe I need to focus on projects 2 and 3 on my volunteering side of things, and I really need to put time and energy into project 3 for work. So it can really just give you a visualization, a fun way to visualize a list for you to prioritize your day. So what I'm going to do is go through one more example. This example is a personal example that I went through a few months ago, where I was really trying to battle between what I wanted in life. And it came down to two things. It was either solitude or it was connection and companionship. Now, here's how I started. I put in the center of my whiteboard what I think I want. And I had my two options, solitude or connection and companionship. Now, the interesting thing is, I get that these two aren't in isolation. A healthy life balances both of these. I can find solitude when I need. I can find that connection and companionship. I was just in a difficult time, and I just needed to see where these desires were coming from. So let's take a look at an example on the connection and companionship side. What you can do with whiteboarding is that you can engage in what I like to call a thought chain. So as you can see here, I wanted connection and companionship because I was just tired of feeling lonely. From there, I asked myself, what do you mean by that? And then I put another box and I said, well, it's the fear of never connecting to someone. And I then again asked myself another question. What would that entail if you were to die? And then wrote down resentment or, a feeling of it being cold. So as you can see here, it's just an entire thought chain that you can put into your whiteboard that can really dive deeper into some key questions that you need to dive into. And you just continuously ask yourself these questions, write them down on your whiteboard, and then answer them with subsequent boxes. Now, you can also use your whiteboarding to reflect on critical questions. If you can draw your attention to the purple boxes, on the solitude side, I'm asking myself some critical questions such as what's the purpose of my solitude and how am I going to find it? Reflecting on critical questions on the connection and companionship side, I ask myself with whom and why is this something that I think I need or desire? So you can begin asking yourself critical questions about any part of your whiteboard. And from there, you can allow yourself to just expand on those questions and be honest with yourself. So many times I think that we get concerned about what we're writing or even just admitting the fact that we may have a reason for doing something that may not be the best reason in the world. For instance, in the top left, for solitude, I said, what's the purpose? And I put down, honor my feelings, honor myself, better understand myself in solitude. But then I'm running away. There's a part of me that thinks that, well, then I'm just going to be, in solitude forever. It's like, well, you're running away. So I had to be honest with myself. The last thing that I wanted to bring up before I show you the actual example is you can also use whiteboarding for what we call self-talk. And if you see the purple box at the top of the screen, for solitude, I asked myself, what's the purpose of solitude? And I said, well, I'm running away. And then I used another box to be able to say, that's not the best reason. And so it's just a way for me to, talk to myself and tell myself, all right, so I know that you wrote that down and I know that that's not the best way to do this. And you can use this in any way at any point in your whiteboarding session, just to be able to say, I get that I'm writing that down, but here is my self-check on reflecting on that. It's like, I get that I'm running away and I honor that. And you also know that that's not the best reason for you to seek solitude. So here is the actual example of my whiteboard with the example that I just produced. It is not as pretty as the PowerPoint slide, but it shows you that your piece of paper is really going to just take you places where you can really start mapping out what you're feeling, what you're going through, what needs to be prioritized, where your heart's taking you. Whiteboarding is an amazing tool just so that you can see everything on paper and visually. Sometimes when we internalize our thoughts and feelings about things, it can be harder to work through because it's just stuck up there. So with whiteboarding, we get it down on paper or a whiteboard or flip chart paper, what have you, and we can finally see it and we can reflect on all of that information a lot better. So your homework is that I would love for you to whiteboard something that has been on your mind and use the tools that I have brought up. You can use it for either lists, for prioritizing, you can use thought chains, reflect on critical questions, or even just engage in some self-talk. But see what you come up with and comment below on the topic you used whiteboarding for. Until then, take care.